I'm Lily Thompson, 19 years old. Sitting here on a bench overlooking Harvard's main quad, I'm reminded of how far I've come. It's been a month since I finally resolved the long, standing battle with my aunt and uncle, and my life has finally started to feel normal again. But the journey to get here was nothing short of a nightmare. Just a month ago, I was in the middle of a heated legal dispute. My aunt, Carol, and uncle, David, had tried to steal my college fund, money that was rightfully mine. It all came to a head when I finally decided to take matters into my own hands and transfer the funds back to my account. The day I made that transfer was both terrifying and empowering. I remember sitting at my desk in my dorm room, hands shaking as I prepared to do something that could change my life forever. It was 7:55 a.m., and I knew I had a narrow window of opportunity. The business didn't open until 10 a.m., and David rarely checked the accounts before his morning coffee at 9:30. I logged into my email and sent a pre-written message to Carol and David, explaining that I was exercising my right to recover the funds designated for my education according to my parents' will. I attached all the evidence I had gathered over the past few weeks, showing how they had misappropriated the trust funds. Then, I logged into the business accounting system and created a detailed journal entry. At 8 a.m. sharp, I logged into the business portal of the bank. The joint operating account had more than enough money to cover what I needed. With a deep breath, I entered the exact amount of $153,456.78, the sum that was earmarked for my education. My finger hovered over the submit button. I thought of my parents, how hard they had worked, and how they had planned for my future. I pressed submit. The first call came at 9:42 a.m. It was David, shouting and threatening to call the police. I let it go to voicemail, but his angry messages filled my inbox. As the day went on, things got even more intense. The bank placed a temporary hold on the business account, and I had to deal with the fallout from extended family members and business partners. But let me take you back to the beginning. When I was 9 years old, my life changed forever. My parents, Lisa and Tom Thompson, were kind and hard-working people. My father was an engineer, and my mother was a schoolteacher. They always emphasized the importance of education and had planned meticulously for my future. One tragic night, they were involved in a car accident on their way home from a charity event. A reckless driver ran a red light, and they never made it home. I was left an orphan, and that's when I moved in with my aunt and uncle. At first, they seemed like my saviors. Carol and David owned a small art gallery. They gave me a room in their house and made me feel welcome. They often talked about how my parents would be proud of me. But as the years passed, things started to change. When I was 11, I overheard them talking about my parents' life insurance money. Over $400,000 had been left in trust for me, with them as trustees until I turned 18. Half of it was specifically for my college education. David said, "That money is just sitting there. We could use it to expand the gallery." Carol replied hesitantly, but I could tell she was considering it. With my parents' money, they expanded the gallery, leased a bigger space downtown, and hired more staff. By the time I was 15, the gallery was doing well. They told me that my parents' money was helping to build something great. I started working at the gallery after school and on weekends. I answered phones, organized inventory, and learned how to use the accounting software. When I was 17, I asked about my college fund. David showed me a spreadsheet with a large amount of money listed. He said they had invested it carefully and that it would cover my college expenses. I worked even harder, maintaining a high GPA and participating in many extracurricular activities. I got accepted into Harvard with a partial scholarship. Carol and David's congratulations seemed forced. As the move-in day approached, I noticed the tension. Carol forgot to take me shopping for dorm supplies, and David kept talking about how short-staffed they would be without me. 2 weeks before I was supposed to leave, I brought up the college fund. David said we'd discuss it later, but the discussion never happened. The night before move-in day, we had a dinner, but no one mentioned the money. I went to bed with a growing sense of unease. Move-in day arrived. We were supposed to stop at the bank to withdraw money for my first semester expenses. But when we got to the bank, David told me they had reinvested the money in the gallery, maybe for a year. I was shocked. When I tried to check the account, I found that they had restricted my access the day before. I was devastated. My college dream was slipping away, but I refused to give up. I managed to get to Harvard with my limited savings. My roommate, Emily, was from a wealthy family. She was kind and included me in many outings, but I was constantly worried about money. During my first week at Harvard, I remembered that I still had the login credentials for the business accounting software. I started exploring the records and was horrified to find that there was no separate college fund account. The money had been gradually transferred to my aunt and uncle's personal accounts over the years. They had used it to buy a luxury vacation home and a fancy car, all while telling me there was no money for my college. I decided to fight back. I sought advice from a teaching assistant in my law class and did a lot of research on trust law. I found my parents' will, which clearly stated that the money was for my education. I gathered all the evidence and sent a demand letter to Carol and David. They responded with anger and threats, but I was determined. I reached out to the financial aid office at Harvard, and they offered me emergency gap funding. I also got a part-time job at the campus bookstore. With the support of my grandmother, who believed me and provided me with emotional support, I finalized my plan to transfer the funds. After that fateful transfer, the legal battle ensued. There were many difficult moments. David contacted Harvard's administration, claiming I had a mental health crisis. But I provided the school with all the evidence, and they refused to intervene. After hours of negotiation, we finally reached a settlement. I retained the recovered funds for my education, and they acknowledged in writing that these funds represented the full and proper disbursement of my parents' educational trust. In exchange, I signed a confidentiality agreement. Looking back, it was a long and painful journey. The betrayal from my aunt and uncle was hard to bear, but it also made me stronger. I've learned that I can stand up for myself, even against those I once trusted. And as I look towards the future, I'm excited to see where my education at Harvard will take me. I'm also planning to start a scholarship for students who have faced similar financial challenges, just like I did. So, if you've stuck with me through this whole story, I'd love to know if you've ever had to stand up for yourself against someone you once trusted. How did you find the courage? Drop a comment below and share your experience. If this story resonated with you, please hit the like button and subscribe for more stories about overcoming challenges and finding your own path. Remember, sometimes the hardest battles teach us the most important lessons about our own strength. Thank you for listening, and I hope my journey has offered some encouragement for whatever challenges you might be facing.